Good technical writing can make highly technical information and processes easy to understand and follow. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA, relies on David Herring to explain the initiatives to the general public and the scientific community.
Technical writing involves certain stylistic strategies or certain formats for taking information that is about business or industry or science or technology and making that information easy to understand for a certain audience. It may be a lay reader, or sometimes I'm taking information that is specialized to one particular discipline. For example, it may be terrestrial science. And targeting that information to other specialists in other fields, perhaps computer scientists.
Herring believes that no matter what the subject is or who he is writing for, the objective of his writing is always the same.
My goal as a technical writer is to communicate or transmit my message to my intended reader as clearly and efficiently as possible.
Once he has a topic, Herring gathers as much information as he can about it. He is currently working with a team of scientists who are developing a satellite sensor to study the Earth's atmosphere and climate. He is writing an article on their work and is preparing to interview a team member.
First of all, I'll get some background information. I'll consult journal articles that this person may have written, prepare a list of questions, and then go and do an interview, have this person demonstrate to me what it is they're working on, how it works, what the ideas behind their development are, and always make sure that I mention the significance of their results. How does this relate back to their field of study in general, in the larger sense, and how does it relate to the general public in their everyday lives?
Herring compares researching and writing to the painting of a house.
Most of the work actually goes into preparing to paint the house. The same usually is true with writing. The more prior planning you do and preparation and background reading you do, the easier and quicker the job to actually sit down and write the text of an article.
In addition to gathering information about his topic, Herring considers his audience before he begins writing.
If you're writing for, say, a scientist or someone who's a specialist in that field, then that person is not going to need a lot of definitions. If you're writing for a lay reader, you may want to spend a little more time explaining or clarifying background concepts, diagramming how a system works, or things of that nature, including more images or graphics or pictures.
To help understand the needs of his audience, Herring sometimes imagines he's writing for someone close to him.
I might think of my grandmother, for example, or my younger sister, who I know doesn't know anything about it. And what would she need to know to be able to read my article or to read my manual and understand what it is I'm talking about?
After Herring identifies his audience and gathers the information he needs, he begins to organize his article.
After I've done my research and done my interview process, and I'm sitting back at my desk and I'm ready to begin composing the text of an article, the first question I'll ask myself is, what is my purpose in writing this article, and for whom is it intended? What is my reader? I'll begin to compose the text and organize the information based on that. If, for example, you're writing a software manual for someone who is not familiar with your software tool and they need to know how to use it, you want to write things in a way that's clear and logical and presents information step by step in a chronological order, and you want to provide lots of pictures or images or diagrams that show that.
When he writes his first draft, Herring uses specific techniques to communicate information as clearly as possible.
I like to define difficult terms. Often in science there are jargon or acronyms that readers can't understand, so you need to make sure you define and explain what they are. And I often like to use examples to support my ideas, or analogies to help illustrate an idea or to help the reader understand the concept.
Once his first draft is finished, Herring spends plenty of time revising.
I believe that revision is the most important part of the writing process. As important as the actual preparation that goes into your writing. So I like to allow as much time for revision as possible. I will try to finish a piece usually a week prior to deadline to give myself a few days to come back and proofread and edit. And I also like to have people on hand who can proofread my writing as well, who can go back and check it for content, make sure I don't have any fact errors in the information that I'm presenting, but just also to comment just on the feel of the document. Is the information easy to understand? Does it flow easily? Is it visually appealing?
Herring emphasizes that although technical writing must communicate information effectively, it also requires a great deal of creativity.
One of the misconceptions that people have about technical writing is that it's very cut and dry, methodical, and it strips away the creative process. And I think the opposite is true. I think in some ways it requires more creativity, certainly just as much. A technique that I've found very helpful is what they call storyboarding, and that is simply, first of all, listing the main ideas or the main topics that you want to cover in your text, and then after you've listed them, go back and write a thesis sentence that sort of ties all the ideas together. And once you've done that, then the rest of the information in that paragraph will often fall into place. Usually I like to get far more information than I can include. You're often given limitations, such as if you're writing for a journal, they'll say you can write up to 1,000 words. And so often I find that I've written 6 pages, which is way over my limit, so then I need to go back and pare the article down.